resources to building a marquee food store and living up with differentiation. This is the penultimate panel of the evening at the India Food Forum, and it promises to actually give you a host of perspectives from some special guests, all of who can boast success with their own store, with their own concept. Retailers and brands, as you know, are taking many steps to convert shoppers into buyers, take it away from just being a browsing to an experience. When merchandise, brands, products being the same, why is it that some retailers are actually ahead of the others? Some are making money while the others are stagnating. Some are only getting footfalls while others are getting sales. Is the price factor the main catalyst for buying? Is that truly the case in a country where people are adventurous, consumers are looking for new concepts and are hoping that every time they get back to the store, they get a bigger wow experience? The convenience, product range, the ambience, and of course, the sales service. All of that is something that continues to excite most customers, and they possibly want to know how is the modern day shopper now transforming. So, living the differentiation, building a marquee food store brand based on values and trust, quality assortment and customer service, where pride of satisfaction matters most. That is the theme of our special event and the final and penultimate panel discussion this evening. Let me invite my co-moderator Mohit Kampani, CEO of Spencer's Retail, on stage so we can have the rest of the panelists coming up too. We'll have an opening presentation from Pradeep Bhargav, Head Strategy and Sales at Glad Minds. We also have Ashutosh Takradio, who is the Chief Merchandising Officer at Jubilant Retail, Ashwini Sharma, Chief Merchandise Officer at Walmart, Martin Hill, Commercial Director at Fairtrade, Manoj Kumar Khatri, CMD Anand Fresh, and Seshu Kumar, National Merchandising Head at BigBasket.com. Welcome on the stage, and I hand it over to Mohit to take it from here.
So, good evening, everybody. What we're going to do is start off with a presentation from Pradeep, and he'll cover some of the context we're going to speak about today. And after that, we'll turn to the panelists. Pradeep, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Shaili and Mohit. And good evening. We're going to share some of our thoughts from Glad Minds, which is a cloud-based software connecting brand to the consumer and consumer to the brand. And our goal is to simplify life. And trust us, we will try to live up to the promise of simplify life. As we see, the brands connecting to consumer are not only just the direct connection that we have, we also have channels that brand have to connect, and also communities. And all this we bring through the cloud-based software, which allows us to not only scale up fast, but be relevant as we progress in our business models. So the topic that we have with us, as we have all heard, that whether price is important, and do we as consumers look beyond the price? As a consumer, what do you feel? Is price important, or there are things more important? If you could just raise your hands. Is only the price important, or? Because based on this, what we realize that our panel has a challenge and to convince that there are many more things, just the price, and we will try to discuss and share with you. And what we intend to do is to live the differentiation, because each brand stands for a purpose, and with that purpose, we attract and support our customer. Some of the things that we believe are important is that we must know who our customer is and what is our purpose as we build our store brand. And as we do it, we also need to differentiate, because that brings us the element of what we stand for. And I also believe that the panelists here have each one an element which brings out how the differentiation really happens. But as we do that, there is also a reality check, what's really happening in our ecosystem, and we will take a look at that. And last but not least, how we address it, and we believe ourselves, is by simplifying life for the consumers along with the brands. So living the differentiation and the no part, some of the elements that we want to check is how does a customer really come to you? And we have shared a sample study which was done in UK and in Austria, where it was first taken as input from the brand as to what do you believe how your customer comes. And if you see that in each case, whether it's grass or bristle, the estimation of people coming by walk is underestimated, and so also cycle, and so also bus, and we tend to overestimate the people coming by car. Now, how does it impact when we look at and brand and our positioning? So there was an increased tendency to look at a car customer and the parking and things like that. But also what we then realize, if the customer is really coming by walk or a cycle or a bus, then how well is our store located and how we then address a customer who comes by the other modes. Obviously, a person coming by walk will not carry a 10-kilogram bag home. And therefore, there is a perspective of delivery which comes up for such customers to bring the convenience. So these are some of the perspectives also other speakers have brought, that increasingly customers are looking for convenience. At the same time, why a customer may not come to the store. So we look at some of these perspectives. In fact, we did some research with 250 people on simplifying life and distance, and reaching out to the store is one of the strong reasons why people would not go. The next is the crowd and the rush, and you realize that people would then choose not to go. Or there could be sensory irritants. It could be sheer noise in the place where we decide that it's better to stay away from such a store. Or where product selection is not complete and the specific thing that I'm looking at is not available. And last but not the least is a poor experience, and that is a personal perspective that individual may have. The next perspective that we want to look at and how well we know our customer is really the aging of customer data. While many of us believe that we have a lot of data, but at any point this data is deteriorating. So if you really look at a 3-year and a 5-year sample, your data may be as bad as 20% correct and really as good as 60% correct, because not only people are moving, we change our mobile numbers, and even if you take a look at the numbers coming from telecom, that prepaid card numbers continuously change. So we can't depend on one perspective for us to ensure that we are connected with the customer. Do you have a CRM, and do you believe it is relevant, and who you are able to connect to? So we must take a look at that, and that's how we know our consumers better. The another survey done again by a published source that I'm sharing, how good is your communication? So again, sample done with the brands as how well you are doing in communicating to the customer, and then going back to the customer, how well you feel brand is doing. So brand is really happy the way they communicate, and they say that we are doing 80% feel they're doing a great job. But when you ask the same set of customers whom they have been influencing, the customers feel they're 8% good. So again, it shows that there are changes which are happening in the environment which are not fully perceived or understood by the brand. And we will also touch this later in the topic as part of our differentiation. So living the differentiation, and what all areas that we could look at which could make the differentiation really possible. So as we first talked about the visit itself, how do we attract a consumer to our store? And in the same sequence, when we take it, how well we are able to convince or convert this person who has visited us into a purchase. How this person feels as an experience by being at the store, and how well he is received or she is received. And then how well we are able to continue this engagement with the customer. While these are the sequence of events that happen as a customer connects with us, the points of differentiation could be the unique element which the brand brings about for each of those parameters that we talked. So it would be uniqueness that makes customer feel, okay, this is the reason why I must go to this specific store. Is this brand also bringing some element of emotional connect, which I start relating to and which makes me go again, or makes me purchase, or the experience I feel better? Or it could be the service design. And by service design, what it means is how we deal with the customer, what are the offerings that we have. Do we make a checkout at the billing easy? Do we make a reception easy? Do we sort of simplify security, which may be necessary? So what are the elements which customer starts feeling sensitive about, and how we improve them? So take an example of this kind of matrix, and we just take one piece out of it, and we say, okay, can we make every customer who's coming to us a privileged customer? So we make this privileged customer easy checkout. And not only the incentives are provided then on purchase, but various factors which we believe should be with our loyal customer. Does this customer give a feedback? Or does this consumer then go out and refer? Or is he also going to do a social media like? We then can capture all these components and then incentivize such a customer through this privilege program. The reality check we say is the reality around us is complex, and it's been increasing in complexity. On one side we say, you know, everyone is being mobile and life becomes simple. But I've talked to people and who say that mobile has added to the complexity. So these are different views. And if you ask them, how can you make your life simple? They say, I just shut off my mobile. So when you have this set of audience within, the question is how we then continue to keep it relevant and simple for them, where the amount of information that we're getting is large. So they get catalogs or promotions, different messages, multiple messages from the same brand, and also deals. So tendency for the consumer is then switch off certain things. So how we should still communicate without them switching us off is one of the perspectives that I would also put here. The choice is increasing, and some people say, okay, the more the choice, the better it is. But as a consumer, when I go to the store, I realize that I'm confused. So you see Kashmir, Kashmiri, or Fiji, or local. So this is for apples. By seeing different names, I may not always make out which is really good for me. Similarly, we have the whole wheat bread, or the sweet, the brown, and again, multiple combinations. And again, it leads to confusion. And also, if I ask my son to go and buy something, it's always a choice which becomes a problem for a person who is going to make a buy. So we need to see how we can tackle it. Some of the speakers earlier talked about things like improved a planogram, a display, and a consistent display, which could probably help. And then also it comes to a time, I need it when I want it versus how much I take it one time, because you give me only discount for a large thing, but I can't store it. So it doesn't really become relevant for the consumer, and obviously they will look at where such convenient or relevance is made available to them. And then last is the difficulty, because while we are giving the choices, we are also trying to sometimes scare the customer that other store has a better price. If you purchase here, you may lose something, and therefore we might not make a purchase. The other one we have is a simplicity coming out of the health requirements. So where earlier any ghee was okay, now we have so much variance that we don't realize which one to buy, and that creates a fear, and sometimes people end up not buying. So how we communicate this better so that people buy what we have in stock for them. So some of the areas that we believe that could simplify, and we are proposing here. So one of the things is when we create a connect with our customer, we validate and create a connected and ensure that we stay connected. And this could be done both on web or mobile, or even a simple mail that some consumers are still referring to. At the same time, we need to stay relevant. So which means that I must innovate. I should personalize for that specific individual, but also capture the change. Even if we capture certain times the specific preferences change. And we must then adapt to this change preference. Similarly, the requirement of the individual as each of us changes over time, and also where we stay, where we live. Next is offer convenience. And this could, an example I was stated here is, let's say the product catalog that I make visible for the store is linked to availability. So if it is available to the store, your product catalog shows the product, otherwise it doesn't show the product, which means I buy what I see and I will get it. These are some of the things that we probably could bring in. It could be similar for price and how we can make what is visible to the customer available and therefore purchasable. It should be available, and available means brand is available to the consumer all the time. Long time back when we bought from the next door person, we knew the person, he knew us, and he gave us what we wanted. So in our case, where we have multiple stores across the country, we should allow feedback from different sources. At the same time, respond to that feedback and resolve, because many customers don't come if they are not attended to. And last point that I would take is we attract a consumer and make them feel special. So it's not always just the point, but a simple offering a front seat in a specific event makes them feel special. So we need to think of the ideas where we make them feel special. And then therefore, let's connect and simplify life. Thank you.
Good evening once again. Thanks, Pradeep. So I think the topic today is a pretty emotive one for all the retailers here. And you know how this panel is interpreted it is price versus all the other good stuff, convenience, service, etc. And we'll try and make the thread lively and interesting for you, and we'll keep plenty of time at the end for questions, and we'll encourage you to ask them off the panel here. But let me start first with Ashutosh, who's been a seasoned merchant for many years in the grocery industry. Ashutosh, you're a pretty senior retailer. And to you, the first difficult question, do you think our industry focuses too much on price? And do you think it's sustainable to continue to do so in the future? And does it also take our ability to invest in other more sustainable platforms?
Hello. Yeah, okay, I'm there. Definitely price is on top of the customer's mind today. Actually, just to rewind a bit, when I started my career in retail, someone told me rich love low prices and poor need them. And when he said that to me, it actually scared the shit out of me. And I said, you know, if rich want poor prices and poor need them, then which are the customers who are left as a merchandiser to sell a product at a full price? But as the journey began, I slowly realized that it's very easy to gain a customer on the platform of price, but also very easy to lose a customer on the platform of price. To answer the question, which is the topic for the discussion today, price definitely cannot be the only point on which you can build a retail business under any format. So you definitely have to have a positioning for yourself for the format that you work in to enable the customer to come to you again and again. So the engagement point cannot be just the price. It can be localization, it can be experience, it can be wow factor, it can be the way your stores are structured, it can be the way you have displayed your product. It can be a lot of multiple touch points, but if you try to build an industry in a format just on the basis of price, then the whole scenario of an industry changes. You can build a price-driven format only if you have a backend which also supports that format. So currently in the Indian context, there's only one retailer who has been able to do it, where he has built a price-driven format by also developing a very slim and small backend format. So it works in that scenario, and it's only possible then. But if you're looking like a nationwide presence, we are looking at making investments, we are building large stores with wide assortments, then price definitely cannot be the only factor.
Okay, thanks, Ashutosh. Ashwini, a slightly broader question for you. And, you know, in a way, it's a follow-up to what I asked, you know, Ashutosh here. So if you look at the Indian grocery retail industry specifically, I think we can say that in this era, the last 10 odd years, you haven't seen anybody really come up with a sustainable, profitable platform or business model. There may have been one or two retailers, but the vast majority of, I think now there are 9 pan-Indian retailers. They're still yet to find sustainability. So any thoughts on that? And of course, I think, you know, pricing does play a role there. Our margin depths are low as an industry. What are your broader thoughts on how do we reach sustainable profitability?
Well, that's a tough one. If I can get that, I can get the industry to make me a guru. Well, I think, first of all, when you look at the industry in India and when you look at who we are competing against, it's a very, very different model than we find anywhere else in the world. India is a country of shopkeepers, and there are tons of them in every nook and corner, and you would find them operating at extremely, extremely low costs. What is also unique to India is the entire MRP environment, which does not exist in any other part of the world. So that does limit and that does clearly define an expectation for a customer to buy below that price at, and therefore does limit your, you know, profit, what you can make out of the products that you sell, and you know, that's something which is very, very limiting in a way. Having said that, I would say that the key reason for India and Indian retailers not being profitable so far are probably 4. The first one is that we don't have the costs right as yet. The industry has not been able to get the costs right as yet. When you look at the back-end costs that we have here in India, they're much higher than what a very efficient retailer back in the West would have. And if you compare it versus the nook and corner retailers that we have, the mom and pop stores, the Karyana stores, for example, we are very, very high cost operations compared to that. The second one, which Ashutosh also referred to in a way, is that most retailers are yet to get their proposition right. They're yet to define who their customers are. They're still trying to be everything store for everybody, and they're trying to be in all kind of locales. You know, unless you get your positioning right in terms of who is your customer, who you're going after, and therefore where you need to be in terms of your location, for example, and what you need to sell to them, what kind of price expectation would they have, what kind of service expectation would they have, what kind of merchandise they would need, what kind of relevance that you need to bring about for them, you cannot make it happen. Now, leading to this is also the fact that for any retailer to win with their customers, they need to have extremely relevant merchandise for the catchment area or for the target segment that they're going after, and also at the same time have the differentiated. When we contrast this with an example of stores in the UK, you see the hard discounters in UK today taking the majority share in terms of the growths, for example, that are coming in that country in retail. So there are these 2 companies, particular Aldi and Lidl, who have got their act extremely right with respect to pricing. But it's not just the pricing alone which has made that work. In addition to the pricing, what they're also doing is that to begin with, they had an entire reliance on the private brand that they made, which was significantly higher quality sometimes, or at least equivalent quality than the national brands at a much lower price. So they were able to offer value on a product which was high quality product, or on a product which was a comparable quality product. So that value is what tipped the business or got the customers into their stores. So that has been one key factor for them. In addition to that, I would say that we need to look at differentiation coming in through various other means. So private brand is a very, very large landscape through which you can differentiate versus anybody else. Today, when we were talking about this discussion, you know, people said that all stores sell the same products, and they sell at low prices, and how do they differentiate versus the other then? Unless you have a differentiated assortment, unless you have a differentiated merchandise, you cannot really attract the customer and make that customer loyal to you. So getting that customer trust right, getting that loyalty right is the most important factor here. The next big thing here is, of course, the excitement. Unless you drive excitement in your stores, the customers don't want to keep coming back to you. Grocery, all said and done, is not a very exciting, stuff to purchase. You just want to make a list and give it out to somebody and get it done, or you just want to call somebody and say, deliver it to my place. There is no more excitement in grocery if you just keep the very same products. So if you drive excitement through new products in the grocery area, if you drive excitement through high quality fresh, for example, if you drive excitement through some demos going on in the stores, for example, that would make it much more attractive for the customers to walk into your stores. Linked with it is the quality. And when you drive the quality perception in a grocery store in particular, or in a food store in particular, the perception is driven the most and the hardest through the fresh area. Fresh is where customers sees that differentiation in quality upfront right away. They can feel it, they can see it. And that's, I think, one area which most Indian retailers have not been able to crack so far, for various reasons. And part of the reason, of course, is the supply chain bit, but we've not been able to crack it. I mean, we must admit it. The local wet markets, the Thelawala sometimes probably can do a much better job on fresh than what some of the retailers do today. And I think that's one thing which we need to definitely crack to get more customers walking into our stores. Getting daily mission customers into these stores is the most important criteria for your success. That is the best way for you to get more and more selling in your stores. Lastly, I would say, we talked about price earlier. Price is extremely important though, and price is not just price alone. Price is value. And when you talk about price being value, there are various other parts to price. The first part to price is driving the trust. You don't drive price by advertising price on a particular day and say that on this day, I have a lower price. You have to drive price through making sure that every single day in the store, you have the best possible price going. You have the right price going, and you're not cheating. I mean, you're upfront about your price communication. You're transparent in your price communication. You're straightforward. You don't have any gimmickry involved. You don't have any schemes being run. You're absolutely simple about what you're communicating in terms of your price. So once you drive the trust on the pricing, and through pricing you get that trust in your brand, that's when the customers will start shopping more and more with you and give you more dollars and give you more margin dollars and therefore profitability. Another aspect to price also is customers looks at a price as a cost to them effectively, a lower cost, let's say. If you're making a trip to a store, and if there is a product that is not available in that store which you wanted, you will have to make another trip to some other store to buy that product. So you incur cost as a result of that. So therefore, having in-store availability is also a part of cost, and therefore a part of price, and therefore a part of driving trust with the customers, I think. So these are some of the areas that I guess all of us retailers will have to continue to work on and improve on. And I'm sure we're making the journey. I see a lot of progress in various areas with various retailers. And the day is not far when we will finally turn a profitable business.
Yeah. No, I think both of you had very interesting thoughts. But if I were to just throw back another point before I move to the other panelists. No, these are good answers and these are good solutions. But if I were to play devil's advocate here and even ask this audience in front of me, most of our industry advertising and communication looks the same. It's all price-led and promotion-led. Do you guys generally agree on that? Yeah? Yeah, absolutely, this lady says. Very emphatically, yes, thank you, ma'am. So we're saying all this stuff sitting here, but we're not walking the talk. So, I'm part of the industry, I'm part of your position here. So what's holding us back, and what can we do differently? And I'm just throwing it to both of you.
All right. So I don't think it's anything which is holding us back, really. It is the fact that most of us may be getting some of this back-end stuff right at this point in time to move on to the new platform altogether. That's the first part. Whenever you talk to your customers, you need something to talk about. And you need to be very prepared for it. So unless you have something else to talk about and you're very prepared for it, you would not want to do that. So I think it's a work in progress, I would refer to in that manner. So that's the first part. The second is that so far as profitability is concerned, there is this cost part that we need to address at the same time. That cost part was very wonky when the retail expansion or a rapid expansion in retail took place because the realty market was very, very high at that point in time. So rental costs were very, very high as a result of that. We've seen the rental costs coming down to more reasonable levels now. We've seen the realty market and that bubble adjusting itself into to a more realistic level. And therefore, at this point in time, the retailers are making the right choices about what they need to do with respect to investments in expansion and the right locations as well. So with all of that in place and our preparedness to talk about something else and our scale, I guess, also is one reason why we're not able to talk about some other things at certain points in time. Once we get all of that right, there would be so much more that would be coming through, I'm sure. And I think it's just a matter of time.
Okay, thanks for taking that on.
I think what we do through advertisements, Mohit, is necessarily attract the customers. So there are 3 stages in which the customer will move. The first is attract. The second is engage, so that's when he is in the store. And the last one is retain. So most of the ads today are doing the job primarily of attracting the customer in. So what she spoke about, the Wednesday markets, typically what we do are completely a footfall driving exercise. It's more to attract. But compared to that, if you look at some of the other activations which we do, which are more theme specific, those are the ones which we do to retain the customer. So let's say if I talk about in the context of Jubilant, one of the promotions that we do might be a rice fest, where we talk about the 50 varieties of rice that we have. Now all our stores are based out of Bangalore, which is a very rice eating state. So that becomes very relevant for that audience over there. So that marketing, that ad becomes to more from a point of view of engaging the customer. So there are different ways which you can attract, retain the customer. The Wednesday markets, the monthly promotions are the ones which are more of the footfall drivers. So as I said previously, it's just not about price. It's a lot about with the price, with what you do, and the differentiation that you create is what going to make you last.
Yeah. Thanks, Ashutosh. I think that was very well put. So now I'll turn to my e-tailers on the panel, and first one is for you, Seshu. So my understanding, and it's obviously limited compared to yours, on e-commerce is that it has 2 discrete advantages which physical models don't have. One, of course, is it offers limitless aisles, and the second one is that it offers convenience. And it scores very heavily on physical models. So why is it that, and this is a larger question, not only in the context of grocery retail, that all the e-tailers today are primarily playing on price and don't use either of these 2 with distinct advantages for the industry?
Yeah, actually before I come to the discussion on price, I want to first, get my thoughts right as to, from the customer perspective, what is the customer looking at? So when a customer says that, I'm going to a store, what does he mean? So you can have a very narrow definition as well as you can have a very broad definition. A narrow definition can be that, when a customer says that I want to buy, particular spices, I go to a certain store. When I want to buy ground coffee, I go to a particular store. When I want to buy pickle, I go to a particular store. I'm giving food examples. Okay, so, from the customer perspective, the definition of a store is based upon what product I'm buying. When I want to buy candy, I'm going to a particular store. I'm a Bangalorean, so when I want to buy Ooty candy, I'm going to a particular store. So for each of these products, I'm going to a different store. So the customer's definition of store is based upon what products he is buying and what needs is that store satisfying. So once we get that right, then we start seeing as to, we as a retailer, what customer requirement are we satisfying? So in Bangalore alone, though we have so many of these large format stores, we also have a large number of small format stores. Okay, and many of the stores are profitable and they have been doing well for maybe they have supported one generation before, they will support one more generation going forward. So in Bangalore, for example, there is this concept of Mangalore stores, which are basically would supply all these coastal products, pickles and non-vegetarian pickles and powders and sweets and all that. Okay, so there are a whole lot of stores which are Mangalore stores. I think I know myself there are about 15-20 of these Mangalore stores which is there is one store for every 5 kilometer stretch or for one large locality. And each of these stores are doing well. At any point of time you go, you will find that there are some 10, 15 customers there. Some of them are self-service, some of them are, behind the counter. But all of them are doing well and they don't compete on price. Okay. Then similarly, there are Kerala stores. If it is in Bangalore, actually, there are a whole lot of Kerala stores. But for example, in Hyderabad, which has a slightly lesser Keralite population, you have these Kerala stores which do very well. So again, in every area, there is one Kerala store which does very well. Okay. So, and none of them compete on price. Okay. Then, in each of these markets, in each of these cities, there will be at least 2 or 3 Gujarati / Jain / Marwadi stores. Okay. And yeah, correct. So, and each of them are very successful. They will have, kakras, dokla, a whole lot of products. Okay, the sweet pickles, a whole lot of products which are typically eaten by the Gujarati population. And they are all very successful, they are profitable. People go from 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers to those shops to buy. Okay, and if you see organized retailers do have products for each of them. But still, after 15 years after organized retailers coming to the, onto the stage, you still have these stores doing well, they are thriving. Okay. So, this is something which we need to actually look at. When you are an organized retailer, are you serving a specific customer requirement? Then when you are serving a specific customer requirement, are you doing it better than others? Okay. So, now coming to our example of e-commerce store. Okay, as Big Basket, as Mohit had said, e-commerce stores particularly has 2 large advantages. One is in terms of the convenience, which we offer to the customer, and second is the delivery which we do, so which is again a part of the convenience. Third is, I can become, I don't have the problem of space, so I can become, different ale to the different customer. Okay, so I can provide more range. So when I am talking about the e-commerce stores, what I need to tell for myself or what I need to assess myself on is, in each of these, for example, if I am talking about convenience, am I better than the others in the same area? Okay, so, as in Big Basket, we provide these slots in which we deliver. Okay, so we have divided the day into 4 slots of 3 hours each. And the customer chooses as to in which slot he wants the delivery. So if it's a housewife who is, if it's a working woman who is, going to the office, so she would typically pick up either 6 to 9 slot or evening 7 to 10 slot. Okay, and if somebody who is a housewife, she will typically pick up morning 10 to 1 slot or 9 to 12 slot, or she will pick up evening 5 to 8 slot. Okay, so the concept of convenience, we are driving it by saying you can choose your own slot of delivery. And then we measure on the basis of how many of them we are able to, we are able to actually fulfill. So I can say that you can choose your own slot, but if the customer orders in slot 1 and I deliver in slot 4, that is not, I am not delivering the promise. So I keep comparing and I keep checking as to against the promise which I have given, what is my this thing. And we are at about 99.7% as of today in terms of delivering against that slot.
But Seshu, sorry, we are a little short on time.
Yeah.
But coming back to my question, and I'm asking this more from a context of entire industry. Do you think even the e-commerce industry is putting a little bit too much emphasis on price?
No, see, I was just coming to that answer. See, till date, we communicate actually, we communicate 3 areas, okay, as to what is it that we provide to the customer. The first area which we talk about is convenience. So in convenience, we talk about the home delivery in time home delivery, ease of ordering, because you can order from a mobile app and it hardly takes you 10 minutes for a 30 item order, okay, or you can order online. Then the third one is, the value additions which we provide, like cut fruits and vegetables. We provide cut fruits and vegetables, all types of cuts in all vegetables, so which comes to about 100 products which you can order. And this is a huge convenience to the woman who is, who is working or who wants to use her time in a more productive manner. So this is what we communicate in terms of convenience. The second thing which we communicate is the range. See, as an e-commerce retailer, since I don't have the problem of space, which you were referring to, okay, so I can be the Keralite store to the Keralite, I can be the Gujarati store to the Gujarati, I can be the Mangalore store to the Mangalorean. Okay, and this is what we keep communicating, saying I have a large range. Okay. And today we have about 11,000 SKUs, which is I think larger than most of the organized retailers. Then the third one which we talk about is the quality of products which we sell. One is in the case of fruits and vegetables, fourth is in the second is in the case of provisions. So this is something which we advertise. Actually, in the order of priority of communication, we don't actually, till date, we haven't advertised on price. But I'm not excluding that. When it all comes to the common, factor of pricing, we might. Okay, but we see ourselves every day to see whether we are competitive on price or not. We compare against all the other organized retailers, and we compare against the online retailers who are there.
Okay. So over to you, Manoj. You're also both. I think you're the only retailer here who's both in online and physical. What are your thoughts on price versus convenience?
Convenience also matters, but being a e-retailer, you can provide better prices as compared to other stores, because your operational costs are already very less. You don't need to pay your staff. For a small store itself, if you take example of 2,000 square feet store, you need minimum investment of 35 lakhs. But being a e-retailer, with the 35 lakhs, you can manage a big city, just putting a warehouse. So being a retailer, it's very convenient for us to provide better prices to the customers. But prices cannot only drive the business. Till that time, customer will not get product what he want, and according to his convenience. Whatever price you provide them, they will not buy from you. So both the things we need to keep in mind to drive the businesses.
Okay, Martin, if I can get you onto this interesting discussion. As somebody who's observed retail across the world, and you told me before this event you've had an opportunity to look at some of Indian retail. What do you think we're doing wrong, contextual to this debate?
Okay, well, first of all, I don't think you're doing anything wrong. I think it's a very exciting time for you in India, I think. I mean, I was a retailer in the United Kingdom for 30 years, and for the last 10 years, I've been involved with retail all around the world. And it's really interesting. It's just like watching history repeat itself. For the last 5 years, I've been observing and been close to the Indian retail. And it's interesting to see that I think the journey that you're taking your consumer on is going to be a very, very important one for you now at this stage. Because I think we have to accept that there is a given with retailing, and retailing is, at its heart, about doing a number of simple things consistently well. I mean, you can't argue those things. Those things have to be in place. When a consumer wants to come and make a purchase, they've got to be able to find your store and get to it easily. They've got to be able to get inside what they consider to be something clean and bright and relevant for purchasing food. They want to find what they're looking for, but still feel that they've had a choice. I think they also want to know that they've been enabled to make an informed choice. And I think when they're ready to leave, and incidentally, there has to be value for money, two very important things here. There's one thing to discount. You can discount in accordance with your ability to discount. You devalue at your peril. And I think, it's so easy to get those two mixed up. The minute you start devaluing your offer, there's only one place to go, and that's actually generally home with empty pockets. But discounting is another matter, and that is a consistent thing that many of the discounters in Europe, where I still live, have been able to get that combination of giving people an informed choice, taking them with them on a journey, giving them value for money, and indeed just trapping certain discounts that are important at that time. The last thing that's a given is when somebody's ready to leave, they've got to be able to leave right away. I mean, queues at checkouts and things like that is all bad news for consumers. So that's just a bit of contextual background on retailing. So I think the three important things for me, and this is where I think it's very exciting for you, is that firstly, the consumer wants convenience. I think I trapped that in a number of the things that I said. They actually want to see innovation as well. I think increasingly consumers are traveling more, they're getting more discerning about food, they're getting more education on food generally and more excitement around the food generally, and it becomes more than just purchasing something to eat now. It becomes much more of a journey, much more of an informed choice, as I've already mentioned. And so for me, one of the important things to do is to try and find emotional points to reach a consumer that go beyond what is the basic given offer. And increasingly what we have found, and certainly what I can see from the 10 years that I've been actually working more globally, is that in terms of those emotional pinch points, they come down to understanding a little bit better around where their food chain is coming from, in what ways it touches people's lives, and in what way they are a part of an overall consumer experience rather than just purchasing simple things off of a shelf. And you know, this is where it becomes important to make sure that you are, for the last and vital point of the three things. So the first thing is convenience, the second thing is innovation, but very importantly, the third one is around trust. It's about ensuring that consumers are actually trusting you to actually have integrity around those products that they're purchasing. And that goes further than just food safety. That goes a little bit about understanding that when they make purchase choices, somebody in that supply chain isn't suffering or becoming disadvantaged. Particularly in India, you'll have a clear understanding of some of that because, I mean, sadly, I understand the statistics here for farming in India are very grim in the sense that there are many, many farmer suicides and there are opportunities really to sort of set out a point of difference so that you can show your consumer that you are actually trustworthy in the product sourcing around your whole product ranges. It's a very exciting time, and if you have any doubts about what I'm saying, I mean, I can tell you that in the last 5 years, 10 years that I've been involved in the job that I do now, rather than pure retailing, and that is about, helping through a certification scheme and a labeling scheme consumers to understand their supply chains better, I can tell you that 5.5 billion euros of sales are attributed to such sales, to fair trade sales. So, at the end of the day, without making an advert for what I do, I think it's really important to recognize that those 5.5 billion euros worth of sales tell you something about the integrity that I'm talking about here in consumers changing and going on a journey and understanding more about where their food is coming from. And it's easy, just as a last point, it's easy to throw these numbers around, 5.5 billion, okay, 5.5 billion. But 1 billion seconds ago, it was 1959. So, these are very serious numbers we're talking about here. Huge potential, huge opportunity.
Fabulous. Thank you, Martin. And Pradeep, your thoughts on same?
Yeah, I think I agree with Ashwini when he mentioned about new product addition. Makes a lot of difference. An example that I have when we realized that we worked in that space was this greenhouse produce for European cucumber, bell pepper, and tomato. And in each case, we could realize price realization of almost 5 times the current produce. So other advantages that also gave was longevity of the product life, consistency, and delivery availability on a every day at the shelf at the same place. So this is one, and second was, as I had mentioned, that if there are specific requests from the consumer, how well we are geared to fulfill and be able to provide that.
Thanks. So before I hand over to the audience for some questions, I'll just try and summarize what we discussed today. I think, Martin, you made some fabulous points, and you talked about convenience, you talked about innovation, same thing which Ashwini talked about. And I think you were giving more examples from fresh as a category which can build that. You talked about trust, and you also talked about trust and using pricing or everyday low pricing as a means to gain trust. Some very good points from you, Ashutosh, on using price-led advertising more from a perspective of recruitment of context. And Martin, I think from India's perspective, recruitment is also important. Nielsen tells us that the most loyal modern trade shopper in India only shop 20% of their wallet with us. So, to his point, recruitment is still an important part of our agendas. And I think the other point which you made on engagement is also pertinent and important. We're finding it still difficult to walk the talk, but I think at least we are cognizant of the issues in front of us. So if any of you have any questions specifically for panel members here or for the entire panel, and one of us can take it up to answer, please feel free to ask now. Please state your name and try and get your question fast. That's all I request out of you. So we have about 5 minutes more, I think, left over for questions. So, yes, ma'am.
Hi. So, I'm Chandni Sehgal. I had a management consulting firm focused on F&B, QSR, retail, etc. And one of the areas we are seeing is down trading because of the food inflation. We are observing it in some of the panels that we are working on. So, do the supermarkets take cognizance of this? Because you're talking about store brands specifically. And do you use store brands as a method of helping the customer downtrade a bit? I'm talking of the middle class, price sensitive customer. I'm not talking of the the slightly upper end customer. And in the Western economies, and I think Martin will know that store brands did a lot towards helping customers retain the same quality of food on the table, but counter inflation. So that.
And if you guys want to take.
Sorry, I think you'll have. Yeah.
Was that not clear?
You may want to speak again if you.
Okay. Because of the food inflation in the past 5 years, there has been certain amount of observation of downtrading of brands, in the sense that you retain the category but you go to a lower price brand. So have the supermarkets looked at it as an opportunity to bring in store brands that could help the customer retain the category on the table, but sort of manage inflation?
Okay.
Has that been a strategy for
Yeah,
the
so I think two things, and I'm speaking generally for retail as well as the company I work for. So while premiumization has slowed down in the last year or so, down trading hasn't happened this time around. And I speak from data. And I think the reason why that has happened is one has seen penetration of most grocery categories only increase over the last couple of years. So most of the brands and categories people are buying into have become a little bit more mainstream. It's not that easy to exit. The rationale for doing private brands must be very clearly thought of. There are a lot of hidden costs. And what does it do for your category first has to be answered. I think if you do it only from an inward looking perspective, which is I must make more money, you're less likely to succeed. And that's been my personal experience. And having said that, I think the industry needs a little bit more scale before it can get into very serious private brands, especially on the food side of grocery. The low-tech home cleaners, segments like that is pretty easy to do. But if you play these categories well, even with branded products, they're pretty significantly profitable. Yeah, but some retailers may want to do it strategically. But to answer your first question, I at least haven't seen any significant data to suggest we are in any kind of downtrading right now on mainline grocery. Maybe in QSR, but not in grocery.
Yeah, my name is Ravindranath. I have a question with regard to the building the brand that you're talking about at a store level, right? Or a chain of stores. What kind of metrics do people on the panel have with respect to this brand building? Is it only the numbers, financial numbers that are there, maybe the product mix? Are there any metrics vis-a-vis the customer, vis-a-vis your consumers that are there, which you measure on an ongoing basis that defines your brand's progress towards a brand objective or a goal?
So, upfront, I think to paraphrase what Ashutosh said in his comments, you must first answer the question what you stand for very clearly. Okay, and you can stand for, so there is a model called the ESG model. Okay, you're the fastest retailer. You're the retailer with the latest trends. So you must answer your ESG question first. After you answer that and you're clear on where you stand in your perceptual map related to your shopper, In terms of matrices, there are various matrices one can use, but generally in retail, some of the matrices we use are around loyalty, around frequency of purchase, how often they come into my stores, and hopefully we will migrate to more sophisticated measures such as share of wallet once we have better quality data available. But I think these second generation kind of matrices have started coming into the industry. So for instance, the company I work for, one of the key measures we use is how loyal is our shopper? How long have they been with the brand? And are they dropping off? If they are, what reasons they are? So these are some of the things which come top of mind. You guys want to add on anything?
Just to what Mohit was saying on the basis of the EST model, what we focus on is being first, best, or different. Yeah, so we either say, are we the first to launch these products? Have we launched it in the best possible way? Now, the best possible way is or launched, or are we promoting the product in the best possible way? So that can be through displays, through price, through advertising, through media campaigns, through marketing or whatever. Or are we different in what we stock with us? From the matrix point of view, what we measure is the number of bills that a store generates. Are we growing on the number of bills year on year? The number of items per bill. Is my customer buying more items per bill? And is my average cash memo size increasing? So if these three matrices are healthy for any store, then usually the tendency to say that yes, the customer is happy with what prices, what range, what assortment, and what experience you're offering to him.
So I think in addition to that, I would say that in our company, we do look forward to customer satisfaction surveys. We work with customers to understand what they like about us, how they're scoring us on various parameters, where do we stand versus the industry, versus the competition. And we do look forward to their objective and subjective feedback as well to say this is what can be improved further.
I think we're almost out of time, so if anybody has one last question, and then we can wrap it up.
Can I just add one last point?
I'm sorry, Martin.
Just to the last one. I think as well another thing to consideration is it's points of differentiation linked with points of reassurance. So, I think we've got to keep moving in terms of the new offer we're making, but you have to have a consistency of the reassurance that goes hand in glove with that. So, quick example, many of you in this room will have laptops. I bet there's probably 20 different brands of laptop out in this room here today, and yet actually all of you would expect to see Intel inside. Many of you won't even know what it means, but you'd be pretty upset if yours didn't have it. So that's what I mean by this whole kind of consistency and point of reassurance that goes with innovation and sits alongside comfortably with innovation.
Thanks, Martin. Okay, so I think we'll wrap up at that. Thank you very much, everybody, and to my panelists.